All right, welcome to the Exponent Rules Challenge. Here we are in question 1, okay, and I am on page 14. I'm going to use 14 and 15 for this assignment. Here are your first round of examples. Okay, and we're going to spend a little bit more time on negative exponents in this challenge. So let's say I have something like this. Okay, so here is what a negative exponent means if it's in any part of a fraction. Because we already learned, right, we already learned this, like that x to the negative a is equal to 1 over x to the a. Okay. Now, what happens if the negative exponent is on the bottom of a fraction already? Then what does that mean? Here's what it means. It means that whatever you have is on the wrong, whatever has a negative exponent is on the wrong side of the fraction. And you need to move it. Okay, let's see what that looks like. Here's my fraction bar. I'm going to look at the top. I have x to the negative 3. Uh-oh. That means that's on the wrong side of the fraction. If the exponent is negative, that's like, oh my God, it's not okay, it's a bomb, right? Like, you have to look at this and think, okay, I got to do something with that. It's on the wrong side of the fraction. So what you do is you put it on the right side of the fraction, which is the other side. In this case, it was the top, so I moved it to the bottom. And now, it's in the right place, and my exponent is no longer negative. And look over here. Uh-oh. This guy's in the wrong part of the fraction too. We got to move him. And now that he's in the right spot, now his exponent is positive. Okay? So look what I did, right? I just moved anything that has a negative exponent, I moved to the other side of the fraction. Okay, so now this is just, right, and you might be able to do this without writing out the long way, but just for the sake of, right, this becomes, that's just x over 1, right? X to the first power. We just write x. Okay, that one's done. Okay, now what if I have, let's say something like this, n to the negative 5th over n to the 2nd. Okay, here, let me draw my fraction bar. So I look at this and I'm all, oh, it's a negative exponent. Oh my goodness, it's got to go. It moves down here. Now it's positive, right? Because I moved it. It was on the top. Not okay. Moved it to the bottom. Now it's positive. We're all good. This n to the 2nd, and that's like a pretty ugly 2 here. Let's see if I can get a little bit neater. Oh, still. That wasn't negative. So that doesn't move. That just stays right here. What's up here? Just a 1, right? A placeholder. So now, what do I have? Well, on the bottom of the fraction, I have n times n times n times n times n, and times n, right? I have n to the 7th. And on the top of the fraction, I still just have 1. Now, if you're a fan of the shortcut, right, where you're like, oh, I just subtract, I do, the top minus the bottom, that'll work too. Look, negative 5 minus 2. That equals n to the negative 7th. But of course, we don't write it like that, right? That's not how we write it. We would write it 1 over n to the 7th, which you can see is the same. Okay, so that shortcut still works, right? And here, had I done this, I would have done negative 3 minus negative 4. That would have become negative 3 plus 4, which would become 1 x to the first. So the rule still works, but I want you to understand why. Okay, a to the 4th over a to the negative 3rd. This time, this guy's in the wrong place. This guy, he's fine. Okay, what's on the bottom here? Just a 1. Okay, this becomes a to the 7th over 1. Now, when we have something divided by 1, we don't write it that way. We just write it as a to the 7th. Okay, which is like a little tricky, right? Because we're like, well, why do we need the 1 here? Because this is on the bottom of a fraction, right? We have to have something on the top, like the top needs a placeholder. But if there's just a 1 on the bottom, we just make it not a fraction. Okay, so these negative exponent rules, they're a little tricky. You're going to get into some practice right now. Okay, some problems like this. And so you can go ahead and set up your paper like this. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So your next 6 practice problems are going to be like this.